we spent nights, running around the neighbourhood, stealing sheets of plywood and lumps of wood and rows of nails. Well, back then they used to come in like boxes. You'd be running down the road in your black hoodie with this box of nails, going, "Oh, we'll nail all the ramp off with these nails," And I guess that kind of sparked it.
What is success to you?
I think it was a learn to love it experience.
And there's always pitfalls that you can fall in, but then you've got no one else to blame but yourself.
Number one thing if you're struggling is to catch other people about it.
Lee Cheyne,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, mate.
We had a bit of a walk down the road to go grab a coffee, and I'm all out of breath. You're not, because you're a runner.
I love it.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit.
I thought
about
we
that.
might do a quick whip around the block, but
Yeah.
we have to sit down.
I know. I come back. I'm all out of breath, and you're just like ready to go. You're just warmed up.
Nah.
So I really appreciate you coming on. I know you live in the bush. I know you love running. You love being active. We talked a little bit about that before, and you've been in the game a long time. But sort of rewinding a bit back, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Auckland or?
Yeah, I West Auckland kid,
Cool.
solo mum. So you kind of get out there, and if you want something, you got to do it yourself. So obviously that kind of late 70s, 80s era, it was skateboarding. It was a skateboard ramp, or you have to build it yourself. Because Dad's not there to do it. And, of course, a lot of the other kids in the neighbourhood also from solo homes. So all of a sudden there was like a posse of kids. And, it would probably grate on me now, but, we spent nights, running around the neighbourhood, stealing sheets of plywood and lumps of wood and rows of nails. Well, back then they used to come in like boxes, so we'd have like a 5 kg or 15 kg wooden box of nails. So you'd be running down the road in your black hoodie with this box of nails, going, "Oh, we'll nail all the ramp off with these nails," So the poor builders, I apologise now. They're probably all dead now, but there was years doing that, and I guess that kind of sparked it. Between building ramps and skating, and I used to do a lot of judo and stuff when I was young. Did that right up until my teens.
Cool.
Surfing, you name it. If there was a sport, I did it. My poor mother, having to put ADD as, so it was kind of like she was just like, get out of the house, go and do something. So we kind of left at the crack of dawn, and we came back in the dark, and that was how things were when you were a key and lock kid. Parents go to work all day, and you pretty much drag yourself up.
Yeah, it's a different world back then, right?
Way different.
Did you
so
have any?
Good though?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Time of my life.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah. I have a sister, 2 older stepbrothers, who are overseas. My eldest is actually a builder also. So he builds in the States, mostly in Washington, so doing a lot of high-end construction over there as well. And he actually ended up moving into home theatre spaces, so specialist kind of home theatre interior fit out. So it's quite interesting seeing the work that comes back from them every now and again. You'll walk in and he'll be doing some guy from the Red Sox baseball team's house, and there's, Lamborghinis in the driveway, and there's stars in the ceilings, and it's quite cool to kind of see that, what's going on. And another brother in Aussie, and my sister's here out in Titirangi with me actually.
Cool.
So yeah.
Oh, awesome. So who were you in high school? Who was Lee in high school? Were you like you were the jock, the arty kid? Were you the
I was an arty
problem
kid,
child?
actually. A little bit. I was everything. That's, again, the ADD kicked in. I was, first lived in soccer, any sport, I just get stuck in. And then, did a lot of art. And the funny thing is when I finished school, my art teacher put me forward into Wycliffe School of Art and to go and do a Bachelor of Arts degree. And I remember at the time going home, is this kind of, because I was doing art and woodwork basically at school. I was building a boat at school. as part of my last year project. And I remember at the time, I think it was one of my mum's friends said, "Oh, artists don't make money," you know? So it was almost like the light bulb went off. And I think at the time I left school one day and drove to the Unitec, Carrington, well, it used to be Carrington Polytechnic then. And I remember driving in and going, "Oh, I want to do this building course. Like, what have you got?" And they were like, "Oh, national cert, and it starts in 3 weeks. Yeah, you can just join up." So I think at the time I signed in, and then I literally drove from there back to school, walked into the office and said, "Yeah, I'm leaving." And that was it, over. So
how old were you then?
17, I think, at the time. But yeah, so not probably so much. I enjoyed school. I did relatively well at school. So it wasn't one of those kind of, "Oh, my son's having trouble and he's not learning, you know, he's better off in a trade" aspect of it. It was just more, I was just torn between, like, making money, obviously. When you're a kid, you want it all. And coming from a solo mum, you know, that's all. I was like, well, I just want to be rich, you know. So they reckon building's a way to go. Let's go. And how wrong I was. So
When
yeah.
you're that age, though, it's kind of like you did feel rich, you know, making a bit of money compared to your mates who went to school and working at like the local supermarket or something, you know?
Well, I was working, right, like, you know, I had like the neighbours would come over. And I mean, I think I got my mum bought me a skill saw when I was about 12 or 13.
Wow.
And I remember my friends' parents being really concerned about, you know, this guy, should he have that tool? And I'm slinging around, and the next minute the drill came, and then that hand tools and bits and pieces, and then neighbours obviously keeping an eye on me all the time were kind of like, "Here, have this or have that." So it was quite good. I had a lot of people around. Our neighbourhood was quite tight knit, and everybody loved my mum. So it was kind of like, you know, they knew I was a handful, so they were kind of like, "Let's keep this kid busy," you know. So it was always like, "There's some wood under my house, go and get it, and go and build this for your mum, or go and build your new skateboard ramp, or go and do whatever." So it was kind of like the minute I came home from school, it was almost like someone was always there to go, "Right, let's get this kid doing something," you know. So
Very cool.
yeah, having those guys around the periphery was super important to kind of guide me from getting into trouble, basically.
Yeah. It's amazing when you're young, how it's such a fine line that you walk, you can go off on the wrong track stay.
Yeah.
It's just so fine,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And at the time, you know, looking back as an adult, back on it, I realised how important it was. But at the time, I was like, "Who are these guys? Like, you're not my dad. Don't boss me around."
Yeah.
You know?
Get away, you weirdo.
Man,
Now
those
you love them?
guys to this day, you know, where I'm still really close with them. And yeah, you kind of look at it, and I guess that's what's stemmed our, you know, like our training regime at work, you know, like we always have apprentices, always have. And that's kind of the key role of the business of Cheyne Construction, is having that ladder, starting guys from scratch and running them right through to a management role, or going off or starting their own business, obviously.
Yeah. So you had pretty much you had no chance of going into another career, really. You're like building stuff.
That was it.
And
Yeah.
you're coming from it from sort of an art point of view as well. So it's not like you say, you weren't like the problem child just getting thrown into the trades because there's nothing else. You were kind of almost approaching building like an art, from
It was
an art
creative, you know,
Exactly.
and that was the thing. It was like, well, if I can't paint anymore, well, it's not that I couldn't. It was just, you know, when you're a teenager, that's not cool, you know, but I can build these badass skateboard ramps and have half the neighborhood around my house and have a good time. And that was basically decades. To this day, I'm still building skateboard ramps every now and again, you know.
So you did you went there to the Polytech,
Yep.
started your course.
Yep.
And how did you then transition into becoming a builder? Was there an apprenticeship you did with someone?
Yeah,
or-
so again, being surrounded by you know, all the neighbours and friends and family, it was kind of, I was getting to the end of my time, end of the time at Unitec and Carrington, and they basically were like, "Right, now don't let them stop. We've got to feed them into something else." And I started with Butterworth Builders, actually, who we did a lot of Don Nielsen type style architecture, which is, I think he's still around, but a lot of curves and like, I remember the first job out in Mairangi Bay, you know, we had like a 7 split level type style home with curved stairwells, and like at the time it was just me and him. So he was building it and I was the one apprentice.
Amazing.
And it was an enormous house, and I kind of just thought this was normal, you know. So being able to build something, cut and nail all the frames, you know, making the stairs, you know, I think we had 7 stairwells to build, and doing them all curved. So coming out of that job, I think we were there for a good couple of years. Coming out of that job, I kind of thought, oh, this is just building. And then he was kind of decided he was going to move up further north past Whangaproa, and of course I'm way out west, and it just wasn't working too much. I mean, it was an hour and a half drive. So I started with Ryan and Murray, who have been quite a good an influence on the business. Bill, he was the kind of boss that would bring you into the office. They were a partnership, had very defined roles. The only time I've seen a partnership work. You know, one business orientated, one physically kind of carpentry aspect of the business. And, you know, Bill would drag you into the office and be, what's your plan? Like, where are you going? What are we going to do the next 5 years? Where can you see yourself in 10 years? And that was super important. Again, that mentoring aspect of it, just everybody just kind of kept coming in behind and just kind of guiding you through, you know. So, and I guess they saw I always had a work ethic of never let anyone outwork you. You know, it was always, I get to work. If you lift 6 sheets, I'll lift 8. You know, so everything was a competition. I think that came from the sporting background.
Yep.
It was, and I think the older guys recognised that, and I think that's why the attention was put back in, going, hey, you know, this kid, he can actually do something or go somewhere. Let's get him to where he needs to be, you know. So it took that effort, I guess, at my end to put in the mahi, and then that in turn was, you know, given back by them going, hey, okay, he's doing the hard work, let's give it to him, you know, let's point him to where he should be or where he's going. So they put the time in.
Yeah.
So
it was all like that attitude, right? Was it like
yeah.
attitude, commitment?
Yeah.
And did you know where you wanted to go at that time?
Yeah,
or?
yeah.
What
Like
did you want?
literally the minute I drove out of the school gates and enrolled in that Unitech program, I was like, I'm going to be a builder to the day I die. But that was it.
That's amazing.
So,
eh?
yeah.
Not everyone gets that.
No,
you know.
and I was very lucky. And I look at guys now who don't know what they want to do, and I'm just like, damn, you know, like I just knew it, and I love it. You know,
Yeah.
It's like I come home from work now, and I drive straight past the house, straight to my workshop, and I dig through the rack, and I make furniture, and I jump on the lathe, and you know, my wife comes down with a cup of tea. How was your day? We have a chat. And then basically, yeah, it starts to get dark or a bit noisy, and then it's like, all right, back up to the house, have some dinner, and back into it the next day. And that's 7 days a week, and I love it.
That's amazing. Yeah, for a lot of people, it's a bit more of a journey finding that, you know, what they want to do. I know I had a friend at school who, from day dot, he wanted to be a pilot. Went, did everything to become a pilot. Now he's like flying for in Dubai. But that's always, you know, and when you know that early on, it's great because you can put in your 10,000 hours, your 20,000 hours, your 30,000 hours. You can really craft in your skill, you know, level, and become really good at it. And then it's real fun, right? When you're good at it.
Yeah.
You then went and worked for those guys who really like poured into you, which was awesome, right? How did you then transition into doing your own thing?
At the time, I was working relatively independently on site. So coming in as a young apprentice, I think they recognise normally they'd be like, oh, we'll get the apprentice to clean the site or do whatever. I mean, I turned up as I think at the time I probably would have been 19, you know, and I could build a house. And they were kind of like, okay, well, here's a house over here. Do you want to have a crack at that? And we're just going to leave you to it. And, you know, they still, you know, came in every day and made sure, you know, things were happening. But I remember at the time, my boss would turn up and I'm standing a prenail on my own. And I remember him jumping out of the car and it was heaving with rain. And he was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I want to get these frames up because I've got trusses coming tomorrow." So he jumped out of his truck, starts helping me throw these frames up. He lasted about 15 minutes and just went, "This is ridiculous. Get in your car and bugger off home," And I think I ended up driving around the corner and we left. I drove back to the site and kept going just to kind of go, well, he's going to come in tomorrow and see that frame's up. And that was my mentality of like, well, I'm just not going to let them outwork me, and if I do a really good job here, then he's going to give me the next house and the next house and the next house. So over time, it just got to the point where I was almost like a subcontractor working inside of their business. So if extra jobs came in, they knew that they could rely on me to go, well, hey, we'll just throw Lee on that one, give him a couple of staff and away he goes. And then obviously we went through a few recessions and things slimmed down and they split the company up. And I just got an offer from one of the architects to build a house. So I took a couple of the staff at the time who were kind of jobless. And I just said, well, look, come and give me a hand. We'll build this house. And pretty much that was it. Once we got that one under our belt, the next one comes along and the next one comes along and I haven't been able to stop it.
Yeah.
So,
and have you mostly been working on new builds or is there some big renos in there as well or mostly just new builds?
Oh, you name it, everything.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of time actually before all these buildings that we're sitting in here were built. So like William Pickering Ave, this was all farmland. And at the time I was working for Ryan and Murray, I would come up here at night and I'd get, I'd be doing a fit out for someone and then someone from the next unit would come over and go, "Oh, could you do some petitioning in my unit?" So I'd work 7 till 5 for Ryan and Murray and then I'd drive from West Auckland to here and I'd work in a factory here till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and then drive home. And at the time my boss was like, "I don't care what you do, just make sure you're here at 7 o'clock in the morning and you're ready to go." I guess when you're young and you've got that energy, you're kind of like, let's do it. But a year later I was exhausted. Yeah. And I think one night I got followed home and all my tools stolen. So that was a hard lesson. So it kind of slowed me down a little bit in a way, focused back on working with the guys and got a little bit kind of, this is not fair, I'm working my ass off and now I'm going backwards. But, it also taught me a few lessons as well. So from everything, anything bad that happens, something good's got to come of it. So, but yeah, in general, it was just, I think, a lot of guys are like that. How do you start? And I'm like, you don't have to be great to start, but you've got to start to be great. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I think most guys, the hardest part about going out on their own is actually just starting. You know, it's I don't know. I think everybody thinks that, I've got to have my shit together in a way, to get out there. But and you kind of do. You've just got to. It's not easy. And if you're lazy, don't even think about it, because you will work 10 times harder than you do at the moment in your current job. If you're sitting on a cushy number, stay where you are.
Yeah.
Don't waste everybody's time, because it's not an easy game, and but it's also super rewarding.
Yeah. What are some of the questions guys need to ask themselves before they sort of take the plunge into starting their own thing? They might have been maybe qualified, they might have worked, 4 years, 5 years, whatever for a guy. They can maybe they're one of the guys similar to what you're mentioning. They can sort of be left to run a crew and finish off some projects or whatever. They think, well, I want to maybe do my own thing.
Yeah.
What are sort of the thought process they need to go through? What's the questions they need to ask themselves to figure out whether they're not ready, but whether they are in the right position to take the plunge?
Probably the most important thing is what you're willing to sacrifice, because you'll sacrifice everything. Family time, personal time, I mean, I was obviously with the sporting background, although it was individual pursuits. I was a competitive wakeboarder, snowboarded. I still do to this day. All of a sudden, you haven't got time. You're not putting in the training. You've missed the season, and all the boys have gone to Utah, and you're not going. And that probably didn't help with the fact that, I mean, I had kids at 21, 22.
Wow.
I think. So, and at the time, I think back now, I'm like, I don't even remember what my kids looked like. And I remember their first day of school. And I remember taking, I think, a morning off to see them off to school. And then it was like, boom, off to work. I think when my daughter was born, I think it was about 9 o'clock in the morning. I think we'd had her overnight. And we had her at home. We went upstairs. My wife was in bed. Baby was all good. The pediatrician left. And I was kind of like, right, you got your cup of tea? I'm off to work. And I remember to this day, I was on a roof in Titirangi. The colour of the roof was Karaka green. I still remember, getting to work, and the plumber and my other guy at the time was just like, what are you doing here? Didn't you just have a baby this morning? And I'm like, yeah, but, nothing I can do. Definitely do not do that. Definitely don't do that. Guys now, I encourage them to spend that time. We don't work like weekends. If you've got family, it's like, go home. I don't wish it on anyone to miss that time, because that's important. But, at the same, that's for the young guys. If they want to work weekends and let's get some stuff going, get some extra money, go for it. But, it's there was a lot of sacrifice made to get it going. A lot of mistakes made.
Yeah.
But,
There's just so many hats you have to wear when you transition over, right? Because you go through your apprenticeship, you learn, you get qualified, you learn everything. Not everything. You might think you learn everything about building, right? But you're kind of competent when it comes to building a house at that point. But then there's all the business side to it as well. You know what I mean?
You know nothing.
And from the business end, like, what would you, if you go back now, what are some of the things you would do differently in terms of the business aspect to fast track that learning?
I don't think there is a fast track. I think there's definitely easier ways to do things. And I think, guys, it's the old adage of play to your strengths. I've never understood the angle of, some people see success as getting off the tools. I kind of look at it and go, when I got into building, I wanted to be a builder, but a lot of guys will get into it and then they spend their entire time trying to not be a builder. So it's almost defining, what do you want to be, a builder or a business owner, or both? And then, of course, you can't do both. So for me, I'm a better builder than I am spreadsheet guy. So I just get someone to do the spreadsheet stuff. It's like, that's not my forte. And it doesn't interest me. I don't sit there and get excited about it, and life's short. So, do stuff that's exciting, and for me, it's seeing an apprentice click, like seeing you explain something and they get it, and then you watch them do it and achieve it, and then you almost see them puff up. They're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I get it. Wow. That to me, that's what makes me go to work. All the other stuff, it doesn't interest. It's not a monetary thing. As I've got older now, definitely not about money. It's people won't want to hear that. But if I could go to work for free and just hang out with the lads, teach the young guys, and watch them grow, I'd just do that. It doesn't bother me. But, we all like money, don't get me wrong. We need it, It's not the driving factor at all, It's now anyway. Back then, 20 years ago, 100%, I was all about that. But it didn't bring me any enjoyment, I hated my job for a while, which I never thought I'd hate building because it was my thing. So yeah, I guess it's just getting stuff in perspective, But again, a lot of us typically guys learn the hard way, but yeah, getting back to that fast tracking, I think you can be sensible about it. Mentors are everything. If you haven't got someone giving you a bit of guidance, or listening to podcasts like this where you can kind of get a feel for how different guys are doing it, there's probably never been an easier time to make a transition from work into business with all the information that we've got on hand. But you can't do it on your own. And team's important. I'd be nowhere without my team. They are amazing. And of course my wife, she's literally been the ride or die. Tough times, tax issues. I think everybody gets into those. That's a hard lesson to learn. Don't mess with the IRD. So yeah, it's kind of, she does all the off-site project management. She was working for a project manager prior to COVID. And of course, when everything kind of went sideways, we spent kind of 2 months at home, and it was like, do I really want to keep driving to Takapuna every day? A lot of life changes made over COVID for quite a lot of people. And it was like, well, look, just give me a hand. I don't want to be in the office anymore. I want to get back out and build stuff. So, she kind of took more of a full-time role, handling that aspect of the business. We have a girl that just does all of the books, all the payroll, everything. Guys will come to me and go, how do I fill out a timesheet? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, we've got someone for that. It's like, you come to me if you want to know how to put a weatherboard up. Yeah. But that other aspect of it, it's like you can have a sit down with Tessa, our office girl, and she'll put you through the whole thing. Yeah. Again, it's just playing to the strength. Tessa's a guru, so that's what she does. My wife's good at what she does. I let her do that, and I stick to what I'm good at and what I love to do, and that's to put nails in wood. Yeah. So
I think that's really, obviously it's good to be introspective like that, and understand what does success look like. It's almost, you almost want to paint a picture 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead of what does success actually look like. Forget about, put the money and stuff to the side, because numbers in a bank account doesn't help you. It's obviously what it can do for you. But for you, success was what you just said, right? Being on site with the guys and watching them grow, and that's your kind of why. And
choice, I think, is super important to be able to wake up in the morning and go, do I want to go in today, or do I want to go, like some of the guys I've heard, go fishing, or do I want to, it's winter time. I mean, it's on, the snow's on, I'm off, we've got a place in Okuni, and we just basically shoot down there anytime. Like, people know in winter time, don't try and call me. Love it. Yeah, I'm gone. So it's, I think that to me is that level of success is having choice. Yeah. Like, to do what you want to do when you want to do it. At the same time, it sounds good, but you've still got to work damn hard. I'm still working 7 days a week. But, if I'm not like I said, if I'm not working at work, I go home and, we're building stuff. We're building saunas, we're building gyms, we're building, doing the subdivision around home, helping my wife in the garden, it's just, we're always doing something. Yeah. So
we talk a lot about a lot of the stuff that come up through this podcast are mental health, and to be honest, there's no mental health without physical health, right? You're a physical specimen. You like to do physical things, running, and like you say, wakeboarding, snowboarding, being outside. How has that helped you in business and running your company and working with the team and everything? What impact has physical activity had?
It's everything, in my belief. Building's a physical job. And I've always said, my guys will probably have a bit of a laugh about it, but I always liken it to a blunt chisel, It's like, you're going to fit door hardware with a blunt chisel, you're going to get a shit job. So, are you sharp? And that your gear is only as good as the guy behind it, and if the guy behind it's blunt, so it's a nice way of saying sharpen up, and anybody that wears a watch to work, like a fitness watch, you'll know you're doing 20, 30, 40,000 steps in a day. I mean, it's like, mate, you're running a half marathon plus every day. So do you want to make it easy and get to the end and it's fun, or do you want to finish every day exhausted and tired? That's not life. It doesn't make it fun. So, and I guess it's in the years prior to, things have changed a lot. When I was a young guy at work, builders didn't run. Builders didn't do exercise. They didn't go to CrossFit. They didn't. I think I had the odd surfer, but other than that, it was kind of like you drink beers and that's it. And I've never been a drinker. Even in my younger years, just never was into it. I was too busy, I didn't want a hangover. I was like, I'd drive up north and sleep in a car in a car park, and I'd be up at dawn to try and get the first waves. There's no time for hangovers. And I guess that's just, same with the snow. It's, when the snow's dropped, you got to be in that top car park. Let's go. Again, no time. So it was a blessing in disguise, really. But these days I think, health is everything, and it definitely stems back into that mental health process. We've kind of never been in a time where things are kind of subjectively easy, yet objectively our mindsets, it's almost become an addiction, to be sad,
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. It's a lot of. I do wonder, because we have talks at this podcast about mental health, and you got to talk. There's that element you have to talk about stuff. You know what I mean? It helps.
Yeah.
But you can also overdo it, right?
Yeah. And it's horror. It's the most. I mean, being a teenage dad trying to run a business, having no money. Oh, I know what pressure is. To the point of you feel like you're gonna have a nervous breakdown. I probably did. But. It's like you've just got to keep going, and I guess it's a little bit getting out of that mindset. It's probably not going to be a popular opinion, but how do you word it? It's we're quite indulgent, self-indulgent now these days, and I think it's putting others before yourself more so. I had a wife and family that, to me, came first. Didn't matter how I felt. Get on with it. Don't know if it was a good thing, I'm still here. It's all good now, but I think we do tend to overly focus on it. And I don't think depression is just a building thing. I know we have high suicide rates, and it's terrible. It's a real hard one to get your head around. And working with young guys all the time, I've got them coming through constantly, and I've noticed in the last kind of 10 to 15 years, a huge change where guys have actually like, hey, let's sit down, let's have a chat. I'm always open to a chitty chatter, Quite often I'll try and tie it into a physical activity like we discussed, It's like, well, hey, you want to talk? Come for a run. And it's kind of like, they think they're coming for a short run. We could be 40 Ks in the bush, and it's like, well, we're only halfway, and another 5K, you're going to see Jesus, So, and then they're crying about something completely different. They've forgotten about that issue. Not to make light of it. I think it's just, trying to get that behaviour put in perspective, and whether that response is warranted for the issue at hand, It's a real tricky number.
Yeah. It's a hard one, because I know that it's like you said, how do you put this? It's very popular to be like, just talk about it, just keep talking about it. But there's also like an element of like pain in life is really important.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, and sometimes it's important to walk through it and get to the other side, and that's how you overcome.
Oh,
rather
100%.
than just not wanting to walk through it and just rather just talk about it. Sometimes you just have to walk alone and walk through it, and you'll get to the other side and you'll be a better man, a better woman. And then there are other times where you need to talk more. So it's definitely, I think it's nuanced, and it's probably individual to each person.
It's definitely individual, and it's just, it terrifies me that sometimes I think, I think you can always judge a person's level of success by how they cope with, how disciplined they are, or how they position themselves in times of stress, But yeah, it just worries me that sometimes, are those emotions warranted? And it's like sometimes, like if you've got a kid, in the supermarket and they want that chocolate bar, and you're like, no. And they throw themselves on the floor, have a hissy fit, and it's usually followed up with a, in the car, hey, that's enough. That's bad behaviour. It's not good enough. And, what ridiculous behaviour for something like that. And in a way, is there any difference to sometimes talking to an adult like that, saying, hey, look, I know you've got this going on, but is this emotion warranted for what's actually going on? Or are you maybe just feeling a bit too sorry for yourself? And sometimes it's more about you. You've got kids at home and a wife relying on you, as well as your teammates at work, we all rely on each other. When you've got one person letting the team down, that has an effect right through. So I guess it's just trying to, I suppose, put things in perspective. And then you've got those that are genuinely suffering. And, you don't want guys taking that attention away from guys that are genuinely suffering and genuinely need help. So, I guess it's just, sometimes quieten down let's talk about it, but let's not overstate it. And maybe let's do it while we're, let's go for a mountain bike ride, or let's go for a run, and you can solve the problems of the world after a few hours, I find physical activity is the best way where you can just talk openly with a mate, because,
I've always been a firm believer, especially guys, to tie it with an activity or a physical activity, something, even if you did something like go fishing or something, if you're doing something, then the chat's more natural, and you can have, sometimes when you sit like we're sitting right now, it's not always the best way to get a message across.
No, it's super uncomfortable, for blokes, and I guess it's just, like you say, everybody, emotions are like tides, they come in and out, they're never stagnant, and like, anything worth doing is hidden behind something really difficult, and it's like running a business, it's going to be hard, but if you get it right and you work really hard, the other end is great. And look, I'm here on a Friday morning having a chat with you, and we've had a good coffee, and I mean, I could be sitting in a job being, I'm 15 minutes late, I'm getting yelled at by the boss. It's refreshing to kind of be able to go, hey, I want to give my time to something like this, and it's my choice that I can just jump in my car and come up here and sit in front of you. And to me, that's success. You know what I mean? It's, I guess.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. Yeah. And we love it that you are able to come. Okay, let's talk about your company for a bit. The builders there's builders out there, they want to know. What makes Cheyne Construction sort of different to other builders out there? And I don't mean you sell yourself, just in terms of like how you guys approach the build process.
Again, as we've touched on before, we're kind of all about that structured learning. So I've got 3 guys over 60, and they're all hard men. No, like, it's quite funny seeing the young guys come in, and they struggle at sometimes to keep up with them. When we basically, normally we had 2 larger projects running at the same time. So we've got 2 site managers, and then for every junior we have a senior. So for an apprentice that's working along, they'll have someone who has at least 25 to 30 years experience right next to them, showing them every step of the way. And I mean, that's how I was trained. And so I've tried to kind of keep that going forward. It's working well. We've got a young apprentice now who's, one of the BCITO tutors has put him in for Apprentice of the Year, which we're all really proud of. And I think it just goes to show the attention that's been put into him, that it's been recognised by someone outside of the business and gone, hey, you know what, like this kid's producing some amazing work, and I think he's third year now. We're all rooting for him. So
yeah, awesome.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
So was it what was the decision behind getting guys? Because I assume these guys have more experience than you, right? If they, 3 guys in their 60s. Was that a decision you made deliberately to hire these people that have more experience than you? I know I've talked to a few other builders who've done the same thing.
One of them was a guy that I worked with for one of my first bosses at Ryan and Murray. And he just came to give me a hand when things were tight in the recession. I think it might have been, 2008, 2007. And he just never left. And obviously he's an integral part of the team. Then I've got like Aaron, who is my age. We did our time together. So we've worked together 32 years. And he's obviously one of the senior managers that runs the job. So he's an integral part of the business, as well as our other senior manager, Campbell, who's in his 30s. So it's not necessarily an age thing that, it's playing to their strengths. Well, I've got guys that like doing the paperwork, like dealing with the architects, like doing that. Then we direct them there. If I've got someone, we run all our own plant and civil, diggers and what have you. If I've got someone that wants to drive a digger, then we'll show them how to do it. I've got a guy who was with me for a few years. All he wanted to do was drive the machine. He now runs his own digger business. So again, that's for me, like a lot of people would look at it as, oh, well, they come and learn off you and then they leave. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I've got what I needed out of them at the time. And for me to see them flourish in their own businesses, that's my reward. I see that as a reward. I don't see it as a loss. And now it's making room for the next lot of guys to come up through, So that's kind of how I perceive it. And it might be slightly different to how other people see it. They can't be bothered training people. We do have a severe lack of training in the industry. I mean, we're less than 10% of the construction industry retrains.
Wow.
It's insane, the numbers, but then we've got our boom and bust. All of a sudden we have a lack of builders and we have influx of people coming into the country. We're 120,000 a year. Where are they going to live? If we don't train guys, then we're going to end up with this feast and famine constantly, which is, makes it really hard to run a balanced business. Yeah,
for sure. There was that, I think it was Zig Ziglar that said that, someone was saying exactly the same thing. Like, well, what if you train all these guys up and they leave? And then he said, well, what if I don't train them and they stay? It's like, then that'd be even worse, right? So, no, it's very important to do that. So in terms of your staff, it sounds to me like you really value them. You they sort of, like you say, the backbone of the business, and you really put the time and effort in. You mentioned before that the guys come out, they have workouts with you and your home gym, and you guys do saunas together and ice baths, ice plunges and what that.
We encourage it, try and especially getting the young guys into that mindset of, you don't kind of out of that old school kind of, you go to work and drink beers and there's a beer fridge on site and things like. We don't have that. It's like there's kombucha if you want it. Drink water, make sure you got electrolytes in there. We treat it like I treat it every day when the guys are working away. It's like, hey, we're running a marathon today, so let's fuel up and let's get through the day. And when we finish it, it's you know, you should be feeling good at the end, you know, and make the day enjoyable. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the guys, you know, they'll have the odd time they'll sit down and have a couple of beers before they disappear on their weekends. You know, it's just, I guess it's having a healthy relationship with it. There's nothing wrong with anything in moderation. It's just getting the young guys away from that theory of, oh, you know, being a builder is about getting on it. It's like, you're in the wrong company, you know.
And how do you cultivate good culture? Is it dictatorship? Do you need to set up a cult? Like, how do you get culture pumping? You know,
lead by example. You know, it's like when you've got an old boy working along beside you, digging trenches twice as fast as what you're doing it at 20. You got to ask yourself some serious questions. You know, and that's the thing with all of those guys on site. They work hard, and I think, sitting back and watching guys step in and get in the trenches with them. I'm not just turning up each day, you know, in a shiny ute and do this, do that, hurry up, and then bailing out. It's like, if something needs to be done, the apron's on, the spade's out. It doesn't matter how dirty the job is, you know, I'll get in there and do it. And I would never ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And if they don't want to do it, I'll get in there and show them how to do it, you know. And so it's just a different way of doing things, I suppose. It's not for everyone, you know, but it's the way I like to do it, you know. I just see everything as either a challenge or a workout. So, you know, it's kind of like if I have to go and dig something, oh, cool. It means I don't have to go home and go in the gym tonight. I'll just do this instead, you know. So
okay. So what are the, and I know that you don't, you know, you're very much still on the tools and you have people helping you with the business side. But when you look at the business side, what are the numbers that are important to you guys that you look at, you know, at the end of the financial year, the accountant's coming back with the numbers, you know, do you guys look at, you know, per project, you know, what your per project profit margin was? You're looking at revenue, you look at profit at the end, bottom line, like what's sort of the numbers that you kind of keep an eye on?
So obviously you've got your overhead that's going out every month annually, but then, you know, it's divided into your month and then your weeks. So, I mean, obviously we know we run a pretty lean ship. We don't have like premises. We own our own, you know, all our office space and yards and things like that. It's our own properties. So, you know, obviously that was really handy during COVID. We didn't have rent coming out. But obviously running vehicles and gear and all the rest of it, you've got to know those numbers because it's really easy to get to the end of the year, especially when you're running large crews. You know, guys buying saber saw blades and the list just goes on. And all of a sudden, you know, you're looking at your tool allowances and, hey, we've just spent $25,000 on skill saw blades. Where are they gone? So again, that's office-wise. We know what our average is down to the week. And, you know, we can see, you know, anomalies in there. And normally it's just brought up at a site meeting like, hey, guys, you know, we're peeling through these blades. What the heck is going on? You know, and it could be just guys using the wrong tool for the wrong job and wasting stuff. So we try to keep an eye on that. But then you got to kind of not sweat the small stuff too much either, because that can sometimes draw you away from bigger issues, you know. Basically it's knowing those numbers and keeping an eye on them, and then we allocate them into spreadsheets. We work off spreadsheets. Back costing jobs. If you're not back costing your jobs, you're taking a hell of a risk. You know, you've got to know where you are, what went wrong, you know. So we can kind of, when we're repricing jobs, for instance, we can look at, say, for instance, weatherboards. We've got it down to a point where we're like, okay, is it level 1, 2, or 3? Well, level 1 is a single level standalone. Level 2 is a dual story, you know, with intersections and maybe a deck. And then a level 3 weatherboard might be multi-story, super complicated, historical type setup. So if we're repricing new work that's coming in the door, or other historical jobs, I know that I can look at that meterage rate on the weatherboards and go, that's a level 3 meterage rate that we're going to apply against that constant.
Yeah.
Opposed to just going, throw it at a QS and then they just put a New Zealand standards number on it and then you're just relying on them being right.
Yeah.
We do use QSs, but we use our numbers. Again, I don't want to sit there and price, $3 to $5 million historical projects. I'd be sitting in an office for weeks. So we subcontract that out, and then it comes back to the office, and then the girls basically sit there, pore over every aspect of that, make sure the numbers line up, and then that gets presented to the client.
Yeah.
So,
And so so that's like the process that you guys follow. So then the QS, he doesn't work in the office, he's external from you guys.
external, yeah.
And then does he invoice the client directly or does it sort of go through you?
A bit of both. Initially, it's the whole free quote kind of versus the paid quote
Debate?
debate. Yeah. Our angle is normally we qualify the client by saying, hey, you need to get this job QS before you push any further, especially when you're in the design phase prior to going through to consent. The banks usually prefer it anyway. They don't want to see some random builder giving a price. They want to see some numbers after the name and here's your quantity surveyor's been involved in this process, especially when you're talking, hundreds if not into the millions. The bank's got to have some form of security. So normally we'll say, hey, look, we've got 2 QSs. This is the proposal. If you pay this, you own it. So if they decide not to use us, they can take that with them. And then if they usually engage at that point, that's a really good way of qualifying a client to know that, hey, if they're willing to drop $5,000 to a QS, then they're not going to muck around with, trying to cut the jobs back and all the rest of it. They're committed and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the angle that we take there. But it depends. Long-term clients, existing clients that I've had for decades that come back and want more work done, they get looked after.
Yeah.
So
You just have that security there.
Yeah. We have really good relationships with clients. Clients I've done work for decades. They usually come back or they want work done or they want a batch built or they want something done. It's like, bring me your plans, come over, have a sit down. We'll rattle through it. We'll work out some numbers and we'll get this thing moving. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you buy your guys utes?
No.
It's been a big point of contention on our socials, hey Chen, where Henry Dunham came on and said he doesn't buy his guys utes, and man, the internet went crazy. What's your sort of thought process around not doing that?
So our main, it's a tough one. Nobody bought me a ute, it's kind of hardened up, but at the same time, I have my foreman, Aaron, who we did our apprenticeships together. I mean, we went through kindergarten, primary school, high school, did our apprenticeships. We've been lifelong friends. He's got a work vehicle. He has a phone. He has, the guys get their phones paid for. The guys get whatever associated costs. If they're running around doing things or picking anything up, they get reimbursed. They get, fuel cards or whatever they need. It's just unsustainable. To be fair, we've tried it before, and we didn't go down the road of utes. I'm a van man. Like, if you haven't got a van, you're not a builder. That's going to get you. That's going to get some kickback. But you can't fit a concrete mixer and a wheelbarrow in the back of a ute, especially with all your gear. And I just think a van is at the drop of a hat. You can fix anything anywhere at any time when you've got everything on board. And it's just efficiencies. You can't be efficient working out of a ute with, 4 foot by 4 foot. It's just a struggle. I've tried it. I've been there. I thought I'd be cool. And it didn't work. So now here we are, 30 years later, and I'm back in a van, the old High Ace. And that's, to me, has been the most, the best workhorse. But yeah, I think guys need to run their own gear, basically be proud of it, look after it. Again, we've tried having gear on site and leaving toolboxes on site, and then all of a sudden you come in and everything's spread around. The skill saw's got 6 teeth missing off it because they pushed it through nails and it was Mr. Nobody. So it's just, the guys have done it to themselves.
Yeah.
I
guess you can get to a point where you're focusing on the wrong stuff, and you're spending all your time figuring out, okay, cool, so this guy's leaving, okay, where's this ute going, and who's giving that, and who deserves it, and it's hard. And I would say as well, I would just add to that people looking out there working for people, they have to look at the whole package, because sometimes people go, this guy gives me a vehicle, that guy doesn't, this guy gives me a fuel card, but there's a lot more involved in it, especially since you're talking about team culture, the environment that you worked in. Are you going to be excited to go to work versus dreading going to work? And sometimes you can be, you can cry in a ute and be happy in your own, old van, so it's like, you got to look at the whole package, I think.
Yeah.
Super
if you want to be a builder, and a good one, you're going to set yourself up.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I'm not your mum.
Yeah.
We
we asked the internet for just a few questions that we could ask you. And so there was a few questions that come in. So do you mind answering a bit of those?
I can try.
Cool. So this one's from Willis G. Do you think high performance housing will become more mainstream?
100%. 100%. I hope so, because I'm really into it.
Yeah, and that's just people understanding the sustainability, the healthy home, all that sort of aspect.
And I think just seeing the upgraded standards in 3604 alone, where they've put in the high performance detailing. We've been doing that for a decade. And just seeing that sitting in a mainstream building code, I think is,
sign of things to come.
Sign of things to come. But we've also got a lot of issues around ventilation. Like, we've gone, having the new H1 standards, it's great to see it. The cost associated with it coming into a recession has been a bit of a sticking point, but at the same time, they've got a little bit more work to do. We've insulated the heck out of these houses, and we need to start looking at ventilation and filtration systems, which is going back down into that passive route. And I think we can have a blend of the two without getting too carried away. We've gone overboard with the insulation and we've undercooked it on the other, and being able to just round it out a bit. So we've got, good air tightness, suitable insulation, good heat recovery systems and filtration. And then looking at houses and weighing that you can utilise that solar gain in order to help heat that home, and thinking about the positioning of it. Those are the aspects that help you live in a nice, warm, dry house. But you see with all the new unitary plans, and they're building 5-story apartment blocks right next to houses and blocking shade lines. I think we're going to be in for some trouble in the long term.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. A bit more practical. Andrea Fontaine, what deck framing do you use over a waterproof membrane?
Yeah, Aldure. I know where that came from. Look, if you're not using, the click together Aldure system is what we use a lot of. If you're still using wood, it's archaic. I'm old, and I steer away from it. We use a lot of the Aldure system just because it's just so fast and easy, no warpage, no movement, etc. So, yeah, that's our angle on that.
Cool. What inspires you to get up and keep going, doing what you're doing?
My team, the boys, and the girls. We haven't got any girls yet.
What are your thoughts on, we had Bex on a couple of episodes ago. What are your thoughts on hiring a girl in the future?
Oh, we've always put it out there. Huge respect for Bex. It's actually been quite a welcome relief in the industry to see someone that can step up, and seeing her move into her new role and things like that. Hopefully it inspires, other girls to step up. It's super daunting for a girl to turn up on a site with a bunch of guys. Like I say, we've always encouraged it. I think especially a company like ours, the culture-wise, would be really welcoming to a female. I think they'd kind of feel at home. And being that, like my wife and Tessa, our office guru, are really involved. You know, they'll turn up on site and they walk over the site and they check against their spreadsheets to go, well, how long's that cladding taken? And then they'll adjust their spreadsheets to suit to make sure that our numbers all line up and make sure the guys aren't taking too long on specific things. It's, having the girls kind of in there knowing every aspect of it. And then the guys, you know, they'll turn up and it's kind of like backs patted and, hey, how are you? And it's just the norm.
Yeah.
You know?
So they'll fit in nicely.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's anyone, I don't know if you're
Girls
taking
just
on
need
any...
to get into it.
Yeah, I don't know if you're
Get
taking
into
on
it.
any apprentices at the moment, but...
We just took on 3, actually.
Right. Okay,
Which
so
is
now
the
it's probably
most
not...
we've ever taken on at the same time. We're normally just one at a time. It was kind of a bit of a picking thing, but they're all damn good. We just lucked it this time. So
That's
but,
awesome.
You know, time tells.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the mental health stuff anyway, because I always like to kind of bring that into in the back end as well. But well, let me just ask you on this: is there anything you've changed your mind on lately? Is there sort of a belief that you've had in the past that you've maybe got challenged lately in terms of how you see things?
Everything. As you get older, you realise you were wrong about everything. You know,
It's true.
Yeah, and what in regards directly to the likes of that mental health aspect, or just anything?
Just
in general?
anything, really.
Yeah, just everything, mate. You know, I think everything evolves, and you always look at things differently. And I think as you mature and get older, you start to kind of be a little bit more open-minded about things, and maybe a little bit more compassionate, and being able to see both sides of the story. You know, so yeah, I think you never stop learning.
Do you think the young builders coming through? What are your thoughts on them? Do you think builders are getting are sort of soft, the young guys? Do you think they're more innovative? What are your thoughts on the younger builders coming through?
There's a lot of talk, you know, they're soft and they're not as good as they used to be. I think that's mean, you know. Again, it's kind of like, well, where have they learnt it from? It's our job as role models, as leaders, to engage with these young guys. I mean, look, we've got a 50-something% divorce rate. A lot of these guys that are coming through, leaving school, are probably in the exact same position I was in, with no leadership there to show them, you know, how to be a man opposed to being the man, you know. So breaking that mindset of, you don't have to drink 20 beers in front of us to show that you're the man, but we're going to get in here and we're going to work hard and we're going to create something tangible, and then you can stand back and be proud of it, and you can work along with your teammates and support them. That's being a man. So it's that, hence why I suppose leaning back on that apprenticeship aspect of it, I almost see it as a duty that I got given a hand up, and it's kind of up to us to help them back. You do get the odd one that is just unhelpable. We haven't had many of them, to be honest. But then a lot of them that come through, I think it's saying to them, hey, what do you want to do? Like, do you really want to be here, or is this just a bailout option? And sometimes it is, you know, they've left school, mum doesn't know what to do with them, get them in a trade. And it's like, well, look, maybe you want to be a plumber or a sparky. We'll just send them off. Quite often I'll say to guys, look, I'll pay his wages. Can you just give him a week? And I just want to see this kid make a decision. You know, I don't want him planted here and being miserable. I don't want to put my time into someone that's not going to appreciate it. So it's not our job, but if it's not our job, who's going to do it? You know, it's our society that we live in. It's kind of make it better, you know. It's kind of the buck stops with us. So, yeah, if you can be there and show these young guys an angle, it might even be introducing them to sport, you know, just jump in the truck, we're going snowboarding this weekend. Done it before? Nah, all right, let's go. you know, and just showing them that there's a life outside of sitting around home, sitting in front of a computer, getting online constantly. And yeah, let's go down my workshop. What do you want to build? I've had guys build electric guitars and furniture and all sorts down in the workshop, you know, and seeing them step back from it and just go far out, you know. Selecting wood and putting it all together, they surprise themselves, you know, and it's just getting those guys in a position where they can pick up on it. But yeah, I think, you know, show them what it is, show them how to go hard, and they'll go hard. But, you know,
that's awesome. I think that's a great way to finish us off. Just that taking the accountability and be, you know, lead by example, I think is really, it's just come through here as well. I should mention that people would have seen on the start of this video, just in our intro, that we actually, after 5 or 6 weeks, hey Cheyne, we have a content partner now, Lee.
Oh, wow.
So we had the guys at Abodo reach out to us after a few episodes, and they just said they wanted to get involved. They want to give back more to builders.
Cool.
You know, a lot of the attention's given to a bit of the other people around the project, you know, whether it's the architect or the other suppliers or whatever. But builders don't always get the credit, and we need to lift them up, you know what I mean? And so they deserve to be lifted up. So Aboda wanted to get involved, and so we're really pumped. They're going to cover some of the costs of producing this podcast, and that sort of like helps us pay the bills, hey Cheyne? And so they quickly, before we get into it, Lee, they send me some propaganda. I'm just joking. They don't really care what I talk about, but I wanted to kind of figure out a little bit what they're about. Yeah. So each episode I'll just give a little snapshot of or snippet around what they, you know, something I've learned this week. Yeah. So it turns out that I don't know a lot about Timberley, but they apparently a lot of timber comes from old growth forests. Do you understand that? So I didn't even know that. So mostly overseas. So it's all these massive trees that's been well beyond maturity.
Devastating.
Ecosystem, biodiversity, they get all chopped up, everything ruined.
Yeah. And then the after effects of cutting everything down, you know, there's a roll-on effect, you know, all that sediment and that goes into the rivers and kills all the marine life, and it's just a never-ending, I'm just getting educated on this now. And so what I didn't realize is that New Zealand actually we do it different. We actually have more younger forests, so because of our soil here that's so rich in nutrients, and also the great rainfall that we have here, they're able to grow super fast, the pines that we grow here. Yeah. And so they're able to just kind of, in a real sustainable way, grow, chop. So New Zealand actually provides some of the best, most sustainable timber in the world. Which is amazing. And that kind of hooks into, I guess, Abodo, all their stuff from New Zealand. They don't import anything. Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of other you know, awesome things that they do, you know, around the non-chemicals and all that sort of stuff that we'll touch on in the future as well. But I thought I'd just touch and shout out to them, and thanks for doing beautiful product.
Amazing. Have you used them before?
Yeah. We've used a lot of it. Awesome. I mean, obviously I'm a timber guy, so love everything to do with wood. So we've used a lot of Abodo, you know, in the mix of cedar products and things like that. But again, coming back, that sustainability aspect of it, you know, when they're not importing it and everything's here, I mean, chucking a whole lot of wood on a gigantic freighter and pulling it across the ocean, and, you know, the carbon footprint associated with that. Yeah,
it's huge, right?
And, you know, obviously, you know, everybody knows now that, again, construction's probably one of the biggest, contributors to waste in our landfills. I think it's number one in terms of wastage, worldwide wastage. Like 50% or something ridiculous. Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's implementing those things to anything that you can do to help out. You know, if you can't be bothered sorting your bins on site, then the least you could do is have a little think about where your products are coming from, you know, and it's also a great conversation with, I'd assume, with the client as well, right? Once you're at the start, you talk to them about different products, what they value, what they care about. Yeah, and that's becoming more common now because, you know, obviously with the internet and things like that, I mean, 25, 30 years ago, it was kind of you'd turn up on site and here's the plan and away you go. Everything was very generic. And then as you get into more specialist housing, you've got the internet's there constantly. You know, the minute you click on sustainability, you're going to get hammered with it. And then clients are actually keeping us on our toes, to be fair, and coming in with, hey, what about this and what about that?
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got to kind of go home, deep dive online and get yourself educated on it, which is good. You know, some guys will rubbish it and go, oh, no, I don't use that, you know, can't be bothered doing the homework on it. But, yeah, I tend to get in there and go, well, hey, what don't I? There's something I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we try and get on it and lose a bit of time going down wormholes and that online. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good. You got to sort of educate and upskill yourself on all that. If the clients care about it, we got to care about it, right?
I mean, we do a lot of passive housing as well. I think it's funny, you know, almost a decade ago we went in with Jessup Architects. They were kind of at the forefront of that passive home movement. And I remember at the time my suppliers going, oh, you know, you're kind of wasting your time in New Zealand. It's no one does that here and we haven't got the climate for it. And it's like, well, have you not been to Queenstown? and passive doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in a cold environment. You know, it controls hot and cold.
Yep.
So, I think at the time with ProClimate, we did, I think, the first initial introduction in their new factory out in Penrose. And it was very kind of new. You know, they'd put together the education type system for it and were kind of sounding board off us. And we had architects from Jessup and a few of the window companies, you know, the timber windows, Euro type style. And yeah, super interesting. And obviously we implement that in a lot of our builds now, even obviously because we do a lot of historical stuff as well, turning, you know, 100, 120-year-old buildings and making them passive. Hell of a challenge.
Yeah, I imagine.
But being able to do that is, it's awesome, you know, like when a client can walk around in the middle of winter in a t-shirt and shorts and they haven't got heaters burning away and all this energy getting thrown out windows, you know, it's got to be, that's, you know, a form of sustainability in itself. You know?
Yeah, 100%. I think people that New Zealanders aren't used to. You're like, what are you talking about? We're just not used to
Throw
living
the ranch
in
lighter open,
yeah.
let all that air that you've just spent thousands of dollars a year, just let it rip out the door.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, we're just used to being like cold in winter and like extremely hot in summer, and our houses don't perform very well.
Yeah,
and that's just what we is the norm for us. But yeah, there's definitely a better way. Lee, this has been awesome. At the end of every episode, we do a little rapid fire.
Yeah,
you happy to shoot through a rapid fire?
I'll try.
Yeah. Well, you can just say pass if you don't know the answer or whatever. So yeah, let's do it. Lee, how big is your team?
At the moment, I think we've got 13 on the ground and subcontractor, which is another 2, so 15 at the moment.
Cool. And what is your crew mix of those guys?
50. 1/3 over 50, a third kind of middle, so mid-20s to early 30s, and then the 3 apprentices down at 18 to kind of 20.
Cool. How many projects did you complete last year?
I was just looking at that. About 6, I think we did last year. Obviously, normally we're doing 2 large projects a year. You know, some of our work will go for 12, 18 months, 2 years. Obviously, with the floods that came through in February, there was a lot of unexpected jobs that popped up. So, although it was a horrible thing for the people that had to suffer through it, it was an opportunity for our mid-level builders who are freshly qualified to kind of step out and go, right, well, I think you can handle this on your own.
Cool.
Doing the flood repair. So
yeah, good opportunity. What was your turnover last year? Under 1 mil, 1 to 3 mil, 3 to 5 mil, 5 to 10 mil, 10 to 20 mil, 20 mil plus.
3 to 5 is kind of our average.
What's the lowest gross profit margin building companies should be aiming for?
Lowest. It is what it is, you know, when times are tough, but, you know, you don't make any money making 5%. 15, I'd say you need to be, you need to be cranking at least 15 to make it worthwhile.
Yeah. Free quote or paid quote?
Paid.
Project management software or spreadsheets?
Spreadsheets.
EV or petrol head?
Petrol head.
Classic rock or metalhead?
I'm an 80s kid, mate.
What was it? Who was your number one go-to band in the 80s? Or
Mostly punk.
Love
Clash.
it. Yeah.
Sex
Cool.
Pistols. Yeah. And then, yeah, all sorts.
Fun. Jock or hippie?
Probably a hippie these days.
Are you too mean or too nice to your staff?
Oh, way too nice.
Yeah.
Too many cuddles.
I could have picked that one. Are you an extrovert or an introvert, Lee?
Extrovert. Yeah, definitely.
Motocross or fishing?
I probably moto more than I do fish, but yeah.
Favorite business or non-business book?
Owning It by Brad Smiley.
Oh, yeah.
He's a
Is
good
he-
friend
he's
of
the
mine,
wakeboarder?
actually. Yeah.
I went to school with
book.
him.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
out to dinner with him on last weekend.
Yeah. Oh, shout out, Brad, if you listen to
Yeah.
this. Yeah, he was a great guy. Yeah, he is a great
Yeah.
guy. But I mean, when I
Insanely
when I
talented
hung out with
athlete,
him,
yeah.
all the girls loved him.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
so annoying for me because my name is also Brad and his name's Brad. And he's the hot hunky Brad. And I'm the,
He's still a hot hunky Brad.
No, he's a really cool dude.
Yeah.
He's done amazing stuff, talking
Amazing,
about pushing
yeah.
through and being an inspiration for people. So,
Yeah,
go
I've
check
been in
that
some
out.
dark places on my runs, and pretty much when I feel like just sitting down and giving up, I just think, well, hey, he'd love to be able to do this. And he's got me over the finish line many a time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I need to actually read that book. I haven't read it.
Yeah, do it.
Who is your business or life hero?
My mum
Awesome.
taught me how to use a hammer, and it never stopped.
Good on you, Mum. What's your favourite hobby?
Oh, God. Can I say any board sport?
Are you an alpha male or beta male?
I'm a Sigma.
Sigma, I love it.
Yeah.
Wine or whiskey?
Non-drinker, but I do like an old whiskey, definitely. Old-fashioned all day.
Okay. Kombucha or coconut water?
Ooh. Both. I have to do both.
Makita, DeWalt or Milwaukee?
Makita.
Glass half empty or glass half full?
Always half full.
Do you think most about the past or about the future?
Think about the past only to learn to not make the same mistakes in the future.
Yeah, not dwell.
Not dwell. No, it's not productive.
Well, that's it, Lee. Did you have
Cool,
fun?
man. I had awesome time. It was
Yeah.
lovely to meet you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on. And it's been a pleasure. And yeah, you're just one of those go guys as well that I think would be as an inspiration for younger guys as well. So appreciate that. Appreciate the work you put into your team. And and just giving back attitude. I love it. So
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks
and
so much
look,
for coming on.
it's awesome what you guys are doing here. It's a long time needed, and I'm just hoping that guys get what they need out of it. And again, on our socials, anybody's welcome to contact me anytime. If you want to come for a run and a chat and try and solve the problems of the world, hit me up.
Well, you heard it, guys. Do that. So thanks, Lee. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks. See you guys.